Hello and welcome to another anime lore and theory video. I'm Shergok, your host, and today we are going to take a closer look at how the strongest floor guardian, how Shalltear Bloodfallen fights. But before we go on and take a closer look at any of this, let me quickly thank my Patreons for supporting this channel and say my thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. And with that said, let's continue with the story at hand. Shalltear Bloodfallen, the Blood-Red Valkyrie, is perhaps one of the most, if not the single most important floor guardian in the entirety of the Great Tomb of Nazarick. And we will analyze her fighting style by starting off and analyzing her equipment. And the first item on our list is her armor. Now, in spite of the fact that Shalltear Bloodfallen is literally the first floor guardian any enemy will face, due to her being often tasked with intercepting and ambushing scouts or hostile guilds or players who had the brilliant idea to send out scouting and raiding parties to the Great Tomb of Nazarick. And Shalltear essentially delivers the "you really came to the wrong neighborhood" feeling. And despite all of this, the armor itself that Shalltear Bloodfallen uses for her defense is not of the highest quality, the defected quality, the heavenly or divine tier of equipment. And this has very likely something to do with how exceedingly rare these items are, and that it had been not uncommon for most level 100 players to not even possess a single divine tier item, and likely how expensive and rare the materials are that are used to craft them. And given the fact that the dive MMORPG Yggdrasil Online had in-game purchases where one could spend real money to get some real advantages in the game, the drop rates of the gemstones that are used alongside many other materials and ores and other stuff to craft a single piece of this very divine armor makes it, even for a high-ranking elite guild and a widely feared player-killer guild like Einsulgon, very hard to actually hand out these highest tier of items to even someone as important as the floor guardians. Her armor instead is of the second best tier, the legendary class of items. And there might actually be a bit of reasoning behind why Shalltear Bloodfallen only wears a legendary armor, so to speak, namely the fact that it would need a divine class weapon like the Takemi Kazushi Mark 8 or the twin daggers Tsukiyomi and Amaterasu to actually cut through the heavy armor with relative ease. But since every defeated player drops randomly one single item that had been equipped after their defeat, this on the one hand meant that the chances that Shalltear loses a divine class item when she's defeated is reduced by simply having fewer of these rare items on her. And the second is that Shalltear, together with Einsulgon himself, mostly dealt with lone scouts or small raiding parties that would try to get some sort of intel about the strength of the guild base going, to basically prepare for a larger battle by gathering intel on how Eins and Shalltear and perhaps the other guild members fight. And since the risk of these scouts being eliminated is quite high, because after all they are walking straight into Nazarick, it would not be all that smart to carry divine class items with them themselves. So Shalltear's armor being good enough to actually defeat the players, good enough to significantly reduce the damage of enemy weapons that are not of the divine class of items, is perhaps all that is even needed and required of the armor. And Eins, likely if he had to deal with lonely scouts or small raiding groups, would also not equip his most valuable items and his best gear, but likely one of his fake low quality sets that Pandora's actor had worn during the fight against Platinum Dragonlord's armor. Additionally, her main piece of equipment isn't her legendary armor, but her divine class lance, that just like Shalltear is vampiric in nature, meaning it heals for a portion of the damage that is dealt, and since it is a divine class item, even with this special effect, the lance causes devastating damage to foes. And here's where both of these things tie into Shalltear's greater strategy. She has a massive amount of HP and can heal herself by dealing damage, something she is very good at dishing out. So she has an immense staying power, a self-healing tank so to speak. And here's another thing that I want to mention. Shalltear fights against mostly small units, and just a few enemy players at a time, at the most. And a very good way to increase one's numbers, to bolster the strength of the scouting party or of a single lone player, is to use summons and NPCs to bolster the strength of these groups or single individuals. And this is where Shalltear's true strength shines through, thinking that, let's say, 2 players with a bunch of NPCs, somewhere in the level range of 60 to 80, are more than capable of taking on Ein Sulgon and Shalltear Bloodfallen at the entrance of Nezarec. The battle will already be in Shalltear's and Ein's favor if they truly use this mindset to go into the battle, relying on the strength in numbers. And fun fact, we know from the fight against the Elf King that Ein oftentimes will pretend to be weaker than he actually is, in order to trick his enemies into thinking that they will win the battle, so that the enemy will stay and fight, rather than flee. And once the enemy begins their assault, believing that he will win thanks to the weight of numbers on their side, Shalltear's lance will constantly recover her health by fighting against these weaker foes first. This strategy of healing herself by battling weaker opponents had also been such a problem for Ein in the battle against Shalltear that he could not summon one of his many undead minions, his many powerful, buffed undead minions, and that his few high-tier summons were limited to just monitor the battlefield for further enemies. And while Shalltear dives into battle against the enemy players, dishes out damage, receives damage, and then deals with the summons and NPCs in order to recover her health, Shalltear will simply switch in Ein Herja, her perfect copy of herself, and let her fight where she currently isn't, so that no gaps in the front line are thrown by this maneuver. And speaking of maneuvering, with her high speed and her mist form skill, she can also very easily change position without exposing herself to any damage. And Shalltear could also unleash a Doomlord of her own. And since she is oftentimes together with Ein Sulgon fighting enemies, when she intercepts them, Ein Sulgon could also summon a whole plethora of high-tier undead, be it a Doomlord, an Elemental Skull, or perhaps a Death Emperor, to bolster his own numbers, once the enemy is weak enough, and had burned through most of their potions and summons and NPCs, so that Ein and Shalltear can finish them off for good. Naturally, Shalltear is also able to cast spells and utilize skills. Among her spells are the strongest regular fire spell, Vermilion Nova, and spells like Brilliant Radiance, which deals holy damage. Aside from this, she can shield from damage herself with a negative impact shield or use it offensively, by letting it crash into her enemies. And her Purifying Javelin is not only able to deal massive amounts of holy-based damage, against something Nezarec's enemies won't expect, as a damage from essentially 1 or 2 undeads, that is Shalltear and Ein Sulgon. She can also grant the skill, homing abilities, and perfect accuracy by feeding additional mana into it. And against Ein Sulgon, Shalltear might actually have won the battle if she had summoned Ein Herja instantly and put Ein under significant pressure. So Ein's turning the match into a matter of endurance had ultimately worked this one time against Shalltear, because usually she will win any match of endurance, any war of attrition, against a single enemy player or NPC. Additionally, Shalltear in the new world can also use the summon household skill to create a lot of weaker shadow creatures with which she can heal herself by essentially attacking them and thus recovering health with her lance, while ein Harrier holds the line against the opponent. And of course, even if no source of easy health is available, Shalltear has the abilities Fast Healing and can cast the spell Regenerate to heal herself over time. And she can even undo extremely hard hits via Time Reverse, something that she can utilize up to 3 times a day. So the 3 most critical, most damaging hits will simply be undone by her. So overall, Shalltear is in any combat situation extremely powerful and well balanced, with little to no weaknesses and a lot of strength, and her staying power in combination with her versatility and damage output makes it also very easy to gather a lot of information about her enemies, while she herself will stay quite unpredictable, and her abilities will frequently switch and be rotated, so that no enemy will get the full picture. And with that said, now it's your turn. What do you think about Shalltear Bloodfallen and how she fights? Let me know it down in the comment section. And while you type, I say thank you very much for watching, and special thanks to Ada Daddy Ada, ASK, Bad Guy Ye, Bad Burrito 316, Beezer, Ben C, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley 0221, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Dragonlord Placido Saxophone, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Feralshivan, Guy with That Hat, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Lelouch Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Loverazor, Merovec, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, O-Kill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pantum, Pers Sonich, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Cune Caracos P, Shergox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Sir Axolotl, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss, Rocket Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito 27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, Xenukai, and Zonagon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon under my next video.